Good morning. Oops. Sorry. I'll get this all set up. That's better, a little bit. We just got a couple more things to kind of get ready before we get started. So give me just a minute. Let's see. I need to find a small Sharpie. Thought I had one. Let's see. I'm still having my coffee, so I'm still waking up a little bit. I don't know where. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oops. So this is the stamping that we're going to be piercing. This is Potter USA's 1000th botanical themed impression die. Yesterday I did a live showing how to stamp this, so you can go back and watch that on our channel as well. But all of these background areas, let me get my Sharpie. I want to pierce all of these out. So this, I like to go in with a Sharpie and just make a mark in the areas that I want to cut out. We're going to need to drill a hole in each of these areas. And so I like to, ahead of time, just go ahead and mark what parts I'm cutting out. And I can always make modifications later, but all of these little spaces in between the leaves, I want to remove those to create a more airy feel. So when this die, I honestly am not sure when it was made. It was probably early 1900s, maybe. They would have had a few different steps. So this would have been stamped, and then there would have been a tool that would have pierced all these openings out. But we don't have those. But we do have jeweler saw. So right now, I'm just using a Sharpie, mark all these areas. I'm going to be drilling a hole at each one of these locations so that I can insert a saw blade and pierce out the openings. Don't forget, this one happens to have a bail, a little ring in the die itself. Oops, let me find it. I didn't realize that at first. So when I made my stamping, I didn't quite get all of the ring at the top, but that's okay. How's everybody doing? Hi, Vern. We're in Wisconsin. I moved to Tucson from Milwaukee area. So I'm just going to finish marking all of these. I'm going to be on here either until my phone dies or until I get all of these pierced out. So feel free to come and go as you please. It'll take a while, these little tiny pieces I want to cut out. That'll be good for now. So at each one of these places that I've marked with red, I'm going to make a divot. I just use it's like an awl or a scribe. This is just it's two-sided. I do not know where I got this ages ago. But I wrapped it in this tape just so that I could have a little bit more cushion and grip when using it. Central Econs. Oh yeah. Well, welcome, Burn. So instead of using a center punch, like an automatic center punch where you make a big divot, I just like to use, excuse me, my scribe. And in each one of those areas, my light is good for working, but it's maybe not the greatest for showing video. Oops, sorry about that. Let's see. So each one of these, I'm just going to take the point of my awl. I'm going to just press down a little bit and rotate it. And I'll see if I can show you. Oops. Yeah, I gotta figure out this lighting for lives. But right here, you can see that little tiny divot. That is all you're going to need for the small drill bits that we're using to drill the holes. You basically, when you make a divot, you don't need a big, deep divot. You only need enough of a divot for the very, very tip of your drill bit to register. So I just like, there's no cleanup, no displaced metal when I use just the scribe. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue making divots. Oops. At each one of these red marks. Let me zoom you in maybe. Maybe that'll help. Sorry. Ooh. Haven't gone live much on YouTube, so I'm getting used to it. So I apologize for the shaky cameras and stuff. We'll see. There. That's not too bad. So in each of these areas, I'm just making a divot. As I do this, if you have any questions, let me know. I will try and respond if I see them. I'm also just waking up, so I've got my coffee here to keep me company. Okay, so I am, if you're just joining us, I'm making divots at each of the areas in the background that I want to pierce out. Just using a scribe, pressing down and then rotating. That's going to give me a little divot for the drill bit. So there's lots of little spaces, openings in here. But that's why I thought I'd bring you along for the ride, because it's going to be really beautiful once it's all pierced out. It'll be kind of lacy and airy. Oops. I may need a smaller drill bit, actually, for some of these areas. Oops. Has anyone done a bunch of piercing before? Like, is there, oh, do we have some pros in the house? Personally, I love sawing, and, you know, it's taken years to get to that point, but I've kind of always enjoyed it. It's very frustrating at first when you start, because you break blades, but that never stops. You always break blades. So, okay, so in each of those areas where I have made a red mark, I have a divot. You can see those little dots. Yay, coffee. Yes, yay, coffee. I may see if my husband will bring me a refill in a minute. I'm in my studio. Ooh. Okay, so I have each of these marked. I want to drill a hole at each one of these divots. I believe I'm using, it's probably about a number 65 drill bit. And of course my calipers are busted, so I can't bring those out to show you. But it's a pretty small size. It's slightly larger than 20 gauge wire. So about 0.6 millimeter, maybe a little bit bigger. When you drill holes, you only need to drill, if you're piercing, a hole big enough for your saw blade to fit through. You can drill larger, but really it is the size of your saw blade that determines that. I tend to use predominantly number 65 and number 67 drill bits. That's just practice. I haven't done a lot of interior work, but I've been practicing outlines, getting better. Excellent. That's all you do. Sit down, practice, saw a lot, and that's what does it. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going to zoom you out just a touch. Ooh. Oh, gosh. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so this is the die. It is BT 1000, our 1000th botanical impression die. It's currently on the website, potterusa.com/ I think it's Facebook specials. I posted a link in the description to this impression die. It is available through today. Yeah, yay, Lena. Yeah, it's gonna be so pretty. So when you're drilling, I'm just using my flex shaft and a number 30 hand piece, just the standard adjustable flex shaft hand piece. You want to use lubricant. I just keep a big old chunk of beeswax on my bench. And I'm gonna insert this drill bit so that less is sticking out. So I don't know if you can see, there's like a little bit of wobble on this bit. So I'm going to loosen it and I'm just going to slide it in. That's gonna give it less opportunity to wobble. So we'll sneak that in, tighten it up. There we go. Okay. All right, so let me know if I need to adjust the lights. So I'm gonna hold this drill bit perfectly straight up and down. Basically, I like to secure my hand, my palm against my bench pin. I'm not just holding it up in the air and moving it. I'm stabilizing my hand and I'm making my hand act as a drill press. Might need to adjust light. Hold on. Let me get a little bit more in here so you can see better. Oh gosh, I am sorry. Whew. Okay. Sorry for the wobble. Is that better? You have a little bit more light. Okay. So I'm using my hand basically as oh gosh, as a drill press. So I'm able to use my fingers and move the handpiece up and down, sort of like a drill press. I'm not going in at an angle. I'm holding it straight up and down. So put some lubricant on there. You can use a burr life. I like to use beeswax. And then you want to just register that drill at one of the divots and let the drill bit do the work. You don't want to force it. You don't want to press down hard. You just want to let that drill bit do the work and don't overheat it. Don't go too fast. I'm just going to drill a hole at each one of these. I think my flex shaft's kind of funky right now. Everything is spinning a little off center, but we'll get through this step and then I'll probably service it later. Okay. So yeah, that is what we're doing. You can see these holes over here on the left that we've drilled. We're just going to continue to drill through at all of those divots. Also making sure I'm securing the piece with my hand. Yeah, my flex shaft feels a little funky. So I've had it for many, many years. I may need to take it to a service center or something. Okay. Does anyone have questions about drilling? I'm gonna just keep on drilling holes. What I might do, since I feel like my flex shaft's kind of weird, I'm just gonna take the drill bit out and see if there's anything stuck in my handpiece that would be making it run weird. So I'm just loosening up the chuck, or the jaws. Just gonna blow it out and see if that makes it better. It probably won't, but it is running a little wonky. I'm supporting that drill bit and I'm making sure that it's centered in between those three jaws. That way it is centered. Let's see. It's still running a little off. We'll see. I might end up breaking blades, or drill bits. So, a good rule, always wear eye protection when you are drilling or using power tools. Go. Like I said, if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to write them. I'm going to be checking in and seeing comments as I can. But basically, I'm just going to hang out here this morning and get this piece cut out. So it'll take a little while. Yeah, all these divots, I'm just drilling a hole. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see this? Are y'all able to? I'm gonna zoom in a little. Oh, sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Just playing with the light a little bit. Okay. What's everyone else working on today? Could just hang out and work in the studio. One thing with when you pierce lots of little openings like this, it's very repetitive. You are doing the same thing over and over and over again. But it's great practice, and it's great for developing your skills. You're listening at work? Oh, cool. Thanks for hanging out. Feel free to come and go. Don't get in trouble for watching this at work. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more holes for now. We will probably end up making a few more. I'm barely pressing down when I'm drilling, so I'm not forcing this drill bit. I am letting it cut a little bit. This is just how I like to drill. I like to cut a little bit, and you can see the swarf, the little curlicues of metal that are created. I like to cut a little bit and then pull the drill bit out to kind of clear those out of the way. It does give you more possibility of the drill bit breaking, but I do like to remove it, and it just helps, keep the blade from overheating, or the bit from overclogging and overheating. You can just hold the drill bit in place. We'll do the centerpiece here and cut all the way through, and just let that blade go, or that bit go. I just tend to cut a little and then back it out. Oh, it looks like we missed one over here. Okay. So now we have all of our holes drilled for now, the ones that we're going to do. What I like to do, because there are all these burrs on the back, I like to remove some of those, because as I'm working, these will tend to like catch on my bench pin and sometimes make turning things a little bit more difficult. So I just like to hit that with some sort of sanding burr. You can use sandpaper. I am just gonna use, we'll see how this work. This is a new like flap wheel abrasive that I got for my flex shaft. Haven't used it really much yet, so we'll see how I like it. But I'm just gonna knock off some of those burrs. Nothing too crazy. Just enough to kind of knock that sharpness down so it doesn't catch on the bench fin. I do not know what these are. I'm not sure that I like them yet. But they're just they're flaps of abrasive paper. We'll see. We'll see. Not a huge fan yet, but I'll play with it a little bit. Okay, so that just sort of knocked some of those burrs off. What I need to do next is let's choose, well, first I need to drink a coffee. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so I'm using our saw frame. Goodness, from Potter USA. I'm not going to zoom out too much. Maybe I should. How I'm going to take a look. I'm just going to take it apart and kind of look at it. I may need to send it back into Fordham. It is a very old handpiece. And so it may need to go back to Fordham to be serviced. I'm going to try, see, that's as far as I can zoom out. Okay. So this is the saw frame I'm using. This is from Potter USA. You can use any saw frame. I used just a cheap German saw frame. It was probably $12. I used it for years. A saw will not make you a magical sawing genius. But the main thing when you're looking for a saw frame is that it doesn't flex. You want it to be really sturdy and not, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, not wobbly. These are the saw blades I like to use. Hercules, white label. You can get these from any jewelry supply house. These are 4/0 saw blades. I usually like to use 6/0 for piercing, but I don't know where those are right now. Later, I may switch over to 8/0, which is super, super fine. So through each one of these holes, we're going to have to thread our saw blade through the hole before sawing. So what I like to do is insert my blade into the top of my saw frame. You want to make sure that the teeth are facing, okay, so if this is the side of the saw blade, this is the top. You want the teeth facing down toward the handle and out away from the frame. So I have, okay. So I've tightened the top in here. I am going to thread my saw blade through the hole, or through one hole in the piece. So my metal is on the saw blade, and then I like to kind of tilt my saw frame up, not rested in the V in my bench pin. And what I'm going to do, you can stand up if it gives you a little bit more leverage. Oh my God. I hold the handle in my hand. I'll show you this later. I'll show you the full view when I adjust the handle. But I hold the handle in my non-dominant hand. I use my other hand, my right hand, to line up. Let me see if I can just adjust you really quick to see what I'm doing. Okay. Oh gosh, it won't hold focus. Oh crap. Sorry. So I'm holding this in my hand. A lot of people press it against their sternum. I don't like that because that hurts. So I hold it in my left hand very securely, guide the blade in between the two jaws at the bottom of the saw, and then I'm going to lean into it. And oops, we're going to tighten the wing nut. And let's see. You want a high-pitched ping. So this brass knob, this serves no purpose. It is a throwback. So Kevin Potter's one of the owners, well, him and his wife are the owners of Potter USA. And when he was given a saw frame by his mentor, it had a brass nut at the top. And so it's just sort of a throwback to his history, but it serves no purpose. I have another one, and I've taken the brass nut off. Works just fine. Okay. So now we have our metal. It is on our saw. I like to you can use beeswax. I'll put beeswax on the back. You can also use like a burr cut lube. And you want to, let me see if we can see. This is the little shape that we're going to be cutting out. You can cut either clockwise or counterclockwise. It is completely up to you. But I like to, well, it'll vary depending on how I feel in the moment. But you want to let the saw blade do the work. I'll zoom in also at some point. Don't press it. Don't push forward too hard. You should be holding your saw frame very lightly. You don't want to have like white knuckle hard grip on it. Somebody should be able to like walk past you and just tap the saw frame and it should fall out of your hands. So you don't want a tight grip on the saw frame. Just very slowly, methodically cut out the space that you want to remove. The smaller the saw blade you use for this process, so I'm using a 4/0. If you use a 6/0 or an 8/0 or even a 10/0, the saw marks will be much finer, and you won't have to do much cleanup if you use the smaller blades. Okay. I'll zoom in also. Yeah, I have a tiny rain shower in the foothills of northern, so cozy, drinking iced coffee. Oh, that sounds so lovely. So we're in Tucson, and we are in between our monsoon season. I'd have to double check the actual numbers, but I'm pretty sure we get like 10 or 11 inches of rain a year, if that. So yesterday it was a little cloudy, which is also a rarity. I think we have like 350 days of sun a year. So a cloudy day is a special occasion. But my husband and I were outside and it was cloudy and we were just, enjoying it. And then we felt a raindrop. And then we felt another raindrop. And you wouldn't believe how excited we got. We probably got a total of like 100 drops of rain, but we were outside dancing in the rain. You celebrate the little moments. Okay, so I've just threaded my blade through another section. I've zoomed you in a little bit more, and we're just going to keep on sawing. I'm just blowing away any dust or saw filings that get in my way of seeing. When you get to a corner, you want to saw straight up and down before you turn. That clears out enough metal. It cleans out enough space for you to turn the saw blade. It is a very... When I taught, I always told my students, like, if you find yourself starting to get frustrated or in a hurry, that is when you should stop for a minute. Because that's when you're going to break your blades. So if you're like, oh, I just have a couple more strokes left and I'm going to get this thing fully pierced out, and you find yourself grabbing the handle a little tighter or pushing a little harder, that's when you're going to break your blade. I know people want instant gratification when it comes to metalwork sometimes, but mastering using a saw I feel like that is the single most important skill that you can master as a metalsmith or a jeweler, because when you can saw, it's sort of the base for almost everything. So there is that second hole cut out. And we're just going to keep going. I probably, if I have something witty to say, I'll probably say, some stuff. But if you have questions, let me know, because we're going to be here for a little while. We're just going to get this all sawn out. Use some burr life this time. I'm going to try and adjust my light a little bit. Can you still see that? Probably. I'm just having some trouble trying to make the camera view good while also still being able to see what I do. So at this corner, I'm just going to come in from both sides. And that's going to kind of give me a little tighter corner. I'm paying attention to where the designs of the stamping are. Like I said, I'm using a 4/0 blade right now. I typically will do like a 6/0, but I can't find them right now. I can't find my 6/0 blades. So what I'm doing right here, right in that little inner corner, right there, I'm using the saw blade more as a file. So I'm really not pushing forward much at all. I'm just sort of shaving little tiny bits of metal away to refine that point. Oops. Oh, good. Yeah. I was taught to use my sternum to press against the saw frame when inserting a blade, but it is just not that comfortable. So I definitely like holding it in my hand better. So here's another little trick. Because you do not want, oh my gosh, I apologize. If your nut is tight and you can't remove it, what you can do, oh, that's the wrong way. You can use your V groove in your bench pin and you insert the wing nut, and then you can twist the saw frame and that will loosen the saw blade up. So just another little tip. So piercing something like this is definitely an exercise in patience. Use magnification if you need to. Um, and then, yeah, just kind of get comfortable and, oh my gosh. Sorry about that, y'all. Um, yeah, practice. Go slowly. Don't rush. Oh, you lived in Chandler. Cool. I I've only been in Tucson for about 5 years, and it feels like an entirely different world than Wisconsin did. And I love it, and I never want to leave. Are y'all able to see? Try not to move it around too much. So yeah, just working from one side, and then I'll go back to the starting hole and work from the other side. This is it's very small scale, so definitely use magnification if you need to. Just gonna kind of refine that shape a little. Flip the piece around. So yeah, this stamping is, like I said, it's one I made yesterday. I did a quick live on YouTube showing how to press it. We have, I don't even know how many impression dies we have, but this one is the 1000th botanical design that we've ever posted. I believe they started posting impression dies. It was probably 2016 or 2017. And we have a bunch of different categories, and how we offer them has changed over the years. But this is number 1000, and it is one of our daily dies of the day. And so it is still available today. The link is in the description. But after that, it'll be put away for a while. But I thought it was the perfect example to show you. Here, I'll show you what I'm also doing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's what I'm doing when I'm not using my bench pin. The camera's sort of in the way, but you have holes in your bench. I will stick the top of the saw frame in that hole and insert the blade. Oops, just like I do in the bench pin. Just for this situation, it is a little bit easier for me to do. Let me bring you back. Yeah, Erin, you could probably just go to, or Ari, sorry, probably just any hardware store, maybe take your saw frame with you, and you could probably find a wing nut that will fit. Okay. And we're just going to keep going. This is a very tiny little section. Oh gosh. I'm doing this from home. I'm not set up as a filming studio. So thanks for your patience as I figure the best angles and stuff out. This is a tiny little section. Oops. You do, when you're sawing, you also want to wear safety glasses. Protect your eyes somehow. When these saw blades break, they will fly out faster than you could, close your eyes. So definitely take care of your body and ergonomics when you're sawing. I wear glasses, so I get prescription safety glasses just as my daily wear glasses. Are they cute? No. Do they protect my eyes? Yes. And since I work in a machine shop and with metal all day, every day, fashion comes second. We've got that little tiny section cut out. Oh, hi, Erica. Okay, perfect. I would like to lurk anonymously. We're just gonna keep sawing. Like I said, feel free to come and go from this live. I'm maybe not the best entertainer, but we are gonna be here for a while sawing. So definitely, yeah, if you have questions, let me know, because we're gonna be doing the same thing over and over for a while now. Just taking I'm not applying any pressure. I'm using my saw blade as a file, basically, in these little tiny corners. Can you still see? Oh gosh, sorry, my glasses hit the phone. If you've ever tried to demonstrate something while filming, you will know, like, the awkward kind of positions you have to get in to make sure that whoever's watching can see, but also so that you can see. So I am in a slightly different, sitting position than I would be if I was just sawing without an audience. So it's just funny. Behind the scenes is a little bit awkward sometimes. It looks super nice. Yeah, it's gonna be so pretty once it's all cut out. Look at that. Let me grab, this is not exciting, but here's like a paper towel behind it. That's not really working either. But having all of those pierced openings, and you zooming in like this, it is hard to see, but this is, let me grab my ruler. It's a small piece. So it's, oh, I can't even get it all on screen. It is just about 1 1/8 inches in diameter. So this is a tiny pendant with all of these tiny holes. Oh, this is a larger section. So you will become an expert at threading saw blades or through holes, and I love piercing small elements like this, just because even though I've been doing this for 20 years, I guess, it's still good to just keep up on your skills, your fine motor skills and such. So yeah, I like to challenge myself and cut, if I'm feeling in a rut or something, I'll just cut out little parts. I will practice piercing. I'll make small parts, and just doing things over and over and over again. It can get it can be tedious, but it also builds your skills. Can you see? Sorry, the camera's gonna get a little funky. I'm gonna scoot it over just a touch, so maybe it's more central. But yeah, so, if you're not feeling your muse, just work. Just keep your hands busy. Either sawing, you could, if you like using shot plates, you could take a lot of your scrap and just make a day of melting. Oh, see? Everyone breaks blades. I could see it was getting caught a little bit. So don't feel bad if you break blades because it just happens. Saw blades are consumable. It happens. I also think that maybe I got kind of a funky batch of saw blades this last time. Um, they haven't been performing the same way as previous batches, which is always a possibility. But what I think I'll do, I think I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna switch over to an 8/0 saw blade, just so that you can see. Well, it's probably gonna look the same to you, honestly, on screen. But let me see if I can show you the difference. So here's my broken, oops, 4/0 blade on the right. And then this is an 8/0 blade. You can see the difference in the width of the blade. It is going to have a finer finish. It'll also take longer. Yeah, on the larger section, of course. Yes, exactly. It'll teach me to relax. I loved when I taught. I loved teaching. I have been out of teaching practice for a while now, though. So doing and talking at the same time is definitely makes me lose focus. Okay, I'm over to the side right now, inserting my 8/0 blade. It is a smaller blade, so it will be more likely to break as well. So you just have to go, as before, just go slowly. All right, on the larger section, maybe I'll relax this time. We'll zoom you in. But it is important, if you're not, if you're still getting used to sawing, it is frustrating to break blades, but it is extremely normal. Like some days, I rarely go a day without sawing something. But some days it is like I break, 8 blades trying to cut a small section, and other days, I'll use the same saw blade for weeks at a time. So it can depend on your mental state. It can depend on many things. So try not to get too frustrated if, as you're sawing, you break blades. They're consumable, and it is okay because everybody breaks blades. I'm just sawing this out. You still are teaching. Oh, thank you. I guess I'm not teaching in academia anymore. So, a different sort of style of teaching. But I'm glad our videos help you. Lynette and I, we've gotten a little busy recently, basically since we got back from Providence early this year, buying hubs. And so we haven't been in our video studio as much, just because we've been busy with other things. But the plan is, and our dream, hopefully, we have a video studio in a separate building. It is a fully functioning metal studio. It has, if you've seen any of Kevin's videos, he is a collector. And so this shop has more than anyone could ever need for a jewelry studio, and lots of old stuff. But we haven't been able to be over there all that much just because of life and, things happen. But we're hoping soon. We have a lot of things in the works, as far as new projects, new video ideas. We are going to be reshooting all of our past hydraulic press videos to update them. We're going to be using the Rincon press to demo, all of our bracelet formers and all of that, like the basic intro videos, since we only sell the Rincon now. So we're going to be slowly updating those and just kind of giving a fresh, just revisiting all the old videos. So that's on our to-do list. No ETA on that, though. That'll be a as we go sort of project, if or when we have free time. So you can see, even though this is a larger section, using this smaller saw blade definitely takes a little bit longer than the larger saw blade. But the trade-off is that the surface it leaves is much smoother. Oh my gosh, I broke another one. This is real life, y'all. We have an electric and a manual Rincon. It's the same frame. It's the same pump. But, yeah, so you can get it in either the manual or the electric. We have, well, I don't know if, yeah, we should have both set up at our studio. I only have the electric Rincon. I have the manual standard press that we used to sell, but not the manual Rincon at home. I'm going to move back to 4-aught, just to speed up a little bit faster, but I did want to show you, how, and this won't really show you all that much. You can't really see, but just saying my word that the 8-aught saw blade has a smoother finish. Yeah, the Rincon, the manual, I double checked, but I'm pretty sure it's $950. $950. It is, oh my gosh, you get free shipping up to, I believe, $225. It's all on the product listing. And then you also get 15% off impression dies for 3 months after you make your purchase. So it's a deal. And the manual, it does everything that the electric can do. It just, you pump the handle instead of a motor doing it for you. Hey, if your weird Craigslist press is safe and works, use it. I know Kevin always said, obviously, we like ours, we make them, but you can use a press from Harbor Freight. We don't recommend them just because they can be a little, quality control is a little iffy, but yeah, they can work. I'm gonna saw out another small section. So yeah, if you're gonna be doing some piercing, get yourself, some coffee or some tea, some water, put on some music, and just sort of treat it like a meditative session in a way. Just, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Just try and zoom you out just a smidge. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Oh my gosh. Ugh. My camera setup is so precarious right now. But yeah, so just sit down, hang out, try different things. Like you heard me say, like, don't press forward too hard. Don't force it. But when you're learning, try it. See what happens when you push the saw blade. It will break, but you'll also see it in action. And so you can make a decision, try something, and then adjust your technique the next time. Or for the next section. Sorry, my glasses hit the phone. So lots of little tiny sections. Like we have cut out how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've cut out 8 sections. And we are not halfway. We are maybe not even a quarter of the way. I think right here, oops, right above my fingernail, I think I'm going to just go ahead and cut through here down to that V, or down to that point, and leave, a little space for a leaf. So let's just do that. So here's where that leaf, I think the leaf is. You can kind of make things up as you go. You don't have to follow exactly the impression. So we're going to say that little bit right there, that's the leaf. And then we're going to just keep sawing and treat this section to the left of my saw blade as a negative space. We're going to get that cut out. So yeah, don't be afraid to break blades. Don't be afraid to make so-called mistakes, because that's what you learn from. Don't get too hung up on trying to be perfect, make things perfect. But just treat it like a challenge to yourself. Like, take a look at what you've done, see, okay, what did I do? What could I do to make it better? And make adjustments from there. It works for now. I think it's the design. Oh, I know exactly which one, that book you're talking about. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But that, yes, I have. That is a great book, if I can remember the name of it. So yeah, it's totally fine. If the press that you have is safe and it works for you, then go for it. You don't need something fancy. Okay. Got my saw blade. Again, I'm using the 4-aught blade again. Magnificent. It's on its way. Okay. I'm lubricating my blade. If you have questions, let me know. I can't see when people join the live, so I don't know if there's new people who don't know what we're doing, or if you have any questions, let me know, and I will try and see your comments and answer any questions you have. We're going to be cutting out a whole lot of little tiny parts. Okay, flip it around. Y'all can still see. I'm just sort of using my saw blade as a file before I remove it. You're basically just scraping along the surface of the metal. It'll take practice. You don't want the teeth to bite in to the metal when you're doing this. You're sort of just scraping across the surface. I'm holding, the blade is nearly parallel to the cut when I'm doing that. So I'm just sawing or filing that. So we got that little section cut out, and we're gonna just keep going. This is the section we're gonna do next. Oops. This little tiny piece right here. Made just a couple little strokes with the saw blade. Oh gosh, sorry. And you can do this with, oh my gosh. Ah, see, I'm sorry for moving you around so much. But, you know, a bunch of different stamping, any design that has small areas that you want to cut out. This is just a stamping I have hanging out that was available a while back. It's beautiful pressed solid, but you could also cut out each of these areas if you wanted to. You could definitely do that. This is another piece where you could cut out all of these small interior spaces. For these, they are smaller, so you would want to use a much smaller saw or a drill bit to drill the hole. But that can definitely be done. Okay. Making little tiny cuts. And going into the corner, because this is such a small area, I am coming in from one side. So on this example, I'm cutting on the right side of this little triangular shape to the point. And going slow, let the saw blade do the work. And then I'm going to back out and I'm going to come in from the left. And this can just help me get a tighter point, a tighter corner. Very slow. I'm barely cutting anything. Okay, so we have that little tiny bit cut out. This is the one we just cut out. So there we go. We only have all of these other ones to do. So yeah, tell me what you're working on. Let me know if you have questions, if you've tried piercing, if you had any issues with piercing, what's your favorite impression die, anything that you want. We're just going to be hanging out here. Do you have one of our saws? Do you have one of your presses? Or one of our presses? Let us know. Probably should have put on some music so you have something to listen to other than me sawing. All right. Oops. Yay, Diane. When did you hear about Potter? Like when did you first discover Kevin? I first learned of Potter USA back in, it was probably 20, oh my gosh, 15 maybe. Um, I was the associate editor of a publication you may be familiar with, Art Jewelry Magazine. They were a how-to magazine for metals jewelry. And I was the associate editor, and I was sent to Tucson for the gem show to, see what new products were available, meet people. And I went to Potter USA's open house that they were having. And that's when I met Danielle, and that's when I met Kevin, and ended up reviewing, their press and the saw frame in the magazine. And we just stayed in touch ever since. I did a little bit of freelance work for them after the magazine was discontinued. And I guess it had to have been 2018. I was living in Wisconsin, and really I was ready to move. Like I needed to be around mountains. There was nothing for me in Wisconsin anymore, because I moved to Wisconsin to work at the magazine. The magazine was discontinued. So I started reaching out to people who I knew lived near mountain ranges to get recommendations on where to move to. And I reached out to Danielle. I was like, hey, if you were going to recommend somebody moving to into the Tucson area, where should I look? And I just happened to send that email around the same time that Brianna, who you may know, was getting ready to move. And so they were looking to fill her position. So it was just, it just worked out. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like it was within 2 or 3 weeks. I was packing up and getting ready to head out to Tucson. I came out, shadowed Brianna for a little while before she moved, and we looked for a house to rent, and then came back and started not long after. We rented a house. Danielle went and looked at the house for us because we didn't find anything when we were out there. And yeah, now we are set. We're in Tucson and love it every minute of it. So that's my how did you meet Kevin story. Alright, this is a little bit larger section. Oh, Brianna, yeah, she's living in Washington, but she was just here this past week. So she's definitely still around. She'll be back in another month or so. But yeah, so she's still around. She still works for us. She handles like a lot of our social media. She's sort of a marketing social media pro. So she handles a lot of our social media. So she is around. She just isn't in office anymore. Though I'm trying, I don't know if she's watching or not, but I told her she should just move back here. She should just move back, and and we'll hang out and make content all day. Okay, yeah, so it is really tiny. Um, these sections that I'm cutting out, let me cut this section out and then I'll hold a ruler up to these small little areas. If I wasn't talking, I would be going probably a lot faster, just because some of these sections are so tiny. They probably just need a couple strokes with the saw. I also am sawing carefully, and doing some refining before I remove the saw blade from the hole, just because I don't really want to go back and have to file all these sections. So I'm just taking my time. So it's like most things. If you take the time to do it right, or take the time to set things up properly, it may take more time in the beginning, but it'll save time in the long run. And I feel like that's sort of how sawing is too, which is why I'd use a smaller saw frame or a saw blade, because that reduces cleanup time. Yeah, the zoom makes it a little deceiving because this is actually really tiny. Okay. All right. So, which section? I don't even remember what section I just cut out. This section right here. So this is millimeters. It is 3 millimeters long, approximately. 2 millimeters deep. So yeah, very, very tiny. So I say where magnification, or as Kevin calls it, C-biggers. You use a craft divisor, or if you have a scope, you could work under a microscope. I'm just currently using my eyeballs. Use them while I can. So I have craft optics. I like using the craft optics, but as much as I'm hitting my phone with my glasses now, I would be definitely hitting them with my craft optics. Woo. Sorry. So very tiny. Again, just practice. That is the only way that you're going to get better. The only way that you're going to stop being frustrated with sawing is by doing it, and doing it over and over and over and over and over. The one thing, you don't have to have a fancy saw frame, but if you want to make your life easier, get good quality saw blades. Don't skimp on getting high quality saw blades. I have a bunch of, a bulk of unnamed jeweler's saw blades. They're such poor quality. The teeth are uneven. They break constantly. That's going to give you more frustration than anything. So, like I said, I use Hercules White Label, and a lot of people I know like the Nano saw blades, the Rio Gold. I haven't tried the Nano, but a lot of people really do love them. So just instead of buying an assortment of saw blade sizes, buy a couple different sizes of a brand, and then use them for a while, see if you like them, and then you can try other brands as well. Most brands, I think you can buy, a dozen at a time. I buy them at a gross at a time, but the reason I say buy just the sizes that you will use is I purchased an assortment pack of saw blade sizes back when I was in undergrad. So that would have been in probably 2002. And the sizes that I don't use, I still have them. So once you get familiar with the different saw blade sizes and figure out what sizes you enjoy using and that give you the results that you want. Um, Stick with those because you don't need all the different sizes. Oh, you used to cut out dimes and yeah, cool. I need to mute my TV. It gets into my mouth. That is funny. Yes, the better your tools, the better your outcome. Often that is the case. Sometimes you don't need, well, with major equipment, I would say yes. You also just have to have patience and you have to be tenacious and you have to not give up. So this is becoming Annie story time. Hear all about my life. In undergrad, I was in school in a little place called Pittsburgh, Kansas. And I think one year the art department budget was $90. So we had very little. We had, for the jewelry studio, we had one flex shaft and some hand drills. We had a few hammers. We had a couple jewelers' benches. Everyone else was, you were at a table. So we didn't have fancy, anything at all. But what that did is that it taught me from the very beginning that you don't have to have all of the tools. Are they great? Yes. Am I glad that I have them now? 100%. But there's a lot that you can do with a saw frame and a file from the hardware store. But definitely with sawing, get good saw blades. It's going to make your life easier and you'll get better results for sure. I love our saw. I've been using it since I reviewed it for the magazine. People like to call it a magic saw, but it's not going to automatically make you better at sawing. No saw frame will. What it won't do is flex and bend. It is very stable. And the weight of the saw frame it's a little heavier than other saw frames on the market, but it helps pull the saw blade down. Like the weight of the handle helps pull the blade down so you're not doing as much work because the saw frame is helping you cut down, if that makes sense. They are on our website. Our website is potterusa.com. I don't know if anyone from the office is watching, but they could post links if they are. Do not know. I'm just gonna smooth that out a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, minimal budget in college, 100%. Um, I what did I say? I graduated, I got my BFA in 2006, and then I went straight into grad school in Edwardsville, Illinois. And even though that wasn't a huge program, it was massive compared to having one flex shaft and hand drills for the jewelry studio. So, I expanded my tool vocabulary there. And yeah, it is nice to have nice tools. Absolutely. But there are certain things that you should splurge on and others that you can get away with not, if you want to. So much of metalsmithing and jewelry is finding what works for you, for what you want to do. And I know a lot of people want, the right answer, the one way to do things. And it's just not possible. There is no one right way. There are safety rules, and there are certain facts, like you have to saw up and down in the corner before you turn your saw blade so that you don't break your blade. Like that's just a technical fact, basically. But as far as what saw blade works best for what gauge of metal, you can use with saw blades, you want approximately 3 teeth in contact with the metal at all times. So this, I think, was about 18 gauge metal when I started, but so I could try cutting that with, I do a 2/0 blade would probably be fine. Anything larger would probably catch and chatter. And if you've used a blade that's too big, you know what that feels like. It feels like you can't get a nice smooth cut. So when you feel that, most likely it's because your saw blade is too big. So just step back, try a smaller saw blade. I never use anything larger than a 2/0 blade, no matter what. And you can always use any smaller size blade on thicker material. So let's say in a wild word, let's say I had like 2mm thick metal. That is extremely thick for jewelry. I would use a 2/0 blade for that. But if I wanted to, and I didn't have a 2/0 blade, I would use a 4/0 or a 6/0. You can always use smaller blades. You'll just get, if you use too large of a blade, you'll have problems with the blade kind of chattering and not being able to saw smoothly. I'm just going to do a little bit of refining in this little section here. I'll probably go in certain areas, maybe with like a needle file later, but I do like to smooth things out as much as possible with the blade itself, and that takes practice. Oops. But piercing something like this out, it will definitely boost your fine detail skills. So let's take a look at what we've done. Play it like a violin. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. All right. So we're getting close to halfway. It's looking good though. Look how pretty that's gonna be. I'm excited. One thing I didn't talk about is I like to pierce the inside pieces, the inner elements, before cutting the outside. This gives me more material to hold on to. So it's maybe not such a big deal with a piece this size, it's like an inch. But when you're doing, let me see if I have a stamping of something else nearby that would be a good example. Not really. I don't really have a good example. We'll try this. But if I was cutting out, say, the inside of this piece, which is, how long is it? Maybe 15 millimeters long. I would choose to pierce out this center section before cutting around the outside, just because you think you get to these tiny little areas and that would not give you much to hold on to. So that's why I like to pierce out the center pieces before cutting the outside. Another thing that I like to do, I haven't been doing it in this live. I've been trying to work my way evenly around it. I know that the smaller sections are going to be more of a pain in the butt to cut. So what I'll tend to do is try and get the smallest sections done first. That way I can get the parts that I'm least excited about out of the way first, and then work on the larger sections because I know that those are going to be easier for me. Can you still see? It's a good call to make that leaf. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Think outside the box. That's one thing. I'm going to adjust the camera really quick. But thinking outside the box, don't be afraid to cut apart all of these impression dies. Not the dies themselves, but the stampings. In my own work, my personal work, I rarely use like a stamping just as is. I will cut it apart. I will use components. Maybe I will remove design elements that I don't care for. I will try, I'll post a link. No, I won't post a link, but I'll post, if I can, post a picture in the comments of some. So when I look at the impression dies that are offered, it's hard to look past what exactly, the impression die is and see it for its components. But it's a fun way to start looking at things, because then you see this pendant that we're working on and maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if that fits my style. Let me cut this out and I'll show you some possibilities even just with this design. And I broke another blade. It's because I'm talking. So let's say you get this impression die. It's available for, I think through 10 a.m. tomorrow, Arizona time. It's one of the dies of the day. But you're like, oh, I love it, but I don't make, I don't make pendants or whatever whatever your thoughts may be. You could not use the ring that is in the die itself. You can use this to make a locket. You could cut out and remove all of the leafy bits, all of these, and just be left with this really flowy Art Nouveau style frame. You could selectively remove entire sections. Remove this, you can see here. So there's this sort of shape mimicked over. Oh, let me scoot you down. This sort of shape is mimicked here. If you ignore this, you could then, use two rings and, have chain coming out of both sections here. You could use smaller areas. Like, let's say that you like this particular motif. You could press just this section 2 times, 3 times, and cut it out, move the pieces around to create a different orientation, a different composition. Here, we'll see if I get to it. I want to get all of this stuff pierced out before I do much more planning. You could set stones. Like in these sections where these little dots, these were probably designed as beads for bead setting tiny, tiny, tiny little stones. You could do that. You could, let's say you could remove this entire bottom section, whatever you want. It's trying to imagine the parts of the design and how you could use those. Grab another saw blade because I keep breaking them. So don't feel bad if you break saw blades. That's why I like to buy the gross. Because some days you have a good sawing day and some days you do not. I'm just off to the side, putting my saw blades in. And definitely take breaks. I'm not, just because I'm hanging out with y'all. But you do want to take breaks, give your body a rest, make sure that your bench pin is at the correct height. My husband randomly comes out to check on me because I get lost in the moment. He's like, all right, it's time to stand up and go to the bathroom because I will forget. Not that I will forget. It's like I will just be so much in the moment that I forget to do things. Let me take a drink. Speaking of taking a break. Does anyone have questions? Like I said, so this is our 1000th botanical impression die, and it looks beautiful even without the piercing, but I thought it would be kind of fun to go live. What you could also do is, it's like if you order this die and you get it, you can come back and watch the video and just hang out as a refresher, saw along, cut it out with as you rewatch the video. This video will be saved to our channel, so you can come back and watch it anytime. Just tighten that brass nut real quick so it doesn't rattle. A lot of times, so Kevin really likes to go live, and we know he's a storyteller. Like, he's so good at entertaining people. Me, not so much. But when we sometimes don't go live to show the whole process, it's because it can sometimes take hours to do certain steps. So, you know, if we were trying to do a quick little tutorial on how to saw out this impression die, it's already been an hour and a half. So, you know, we would show you piercing out a couple sections and then zoom to, you know, the finished piece. So, oh gosh, sorry about that. Because sometimes you just don't need to... We don't want to always make our videos 2 hours long, 3 hours long. Okay. Get that going. I'm going to put some more lubricant. Oh, good. Yeah, try and make it as clear as possible. At first, I was not so sure about live videos and how I would like doing them, but they're starting to grow on me as long as I can be prepared in advance. I don't necessarily, personally, like just flying by the seat of my pants. I like to have a plan. You can count on Kevin for spur of the moment. Okay, I'm just kind of refining that shape a little bit. I'm going to probably speed up just a little bit in finishing these last ones because I didn't realize it's been an hour and a half, and this is a long video. I'm moving on to my favorite technique of cutting the small sections first and then the larger sections later. Do you want me to change a camera angle or anything? Is there something you'd like to see a little bit more clearly? All is good as it is. Perfect. This is a 4/0 blade. Lubricant is your friend, so I've just been reaching for my Burr Life because I think my beeswax fell down in my sweeps drawer. But it just makes things go a little smoother. Such a pretty design. When I saw that this was going to be our 1000th botanical, it's like, oh, we have to like show people how to use it because it is so pretty. It is so pretty. And can you imagine 1,000? That's just one category. 1,000 botanicals. That doesn't include any of like the Art Nouveau, the like urban human based designs, no animals, like this is just plants. Has anyone watching ever visited Potter USA? Have you ever come to visit us? If you haven't, you should. We aren't going to be having an open house during Gem Show. We stopped that a few years ago when COVID took off, and we've just expanded so much. We actually do not have room anymore in our buildings to have an open house. So what we do instead is we do a virtual open house. So we'll be doing a series of live videos. You'll get tours. We'll probably do a Q&A with Danielle and Kevin, probably some giveaways. And if you are in town for the Gem Show, we're going to have tours in the evening hosted by Kevin and Mitch. I think Mitch. So you can sign up for those. We don't have the link yet for the sign up, which we need to do. But you can sign up for a time slot and then come get a tour of the shop. Outside of Gem Show season, you're welcome to stop by and see the shop anytime. Yes, come visit. Honestly, if you have the opportunity to come sometime not during Gem Show, that is when you'll get more of like a more in-depth tour. But we know a lot of people come to town specifically for the Gem Show, and we loved having open houses. It's just not something that we can do anymore. Um, we have, you'll see. I mean, if you've watched any of our like shop videos, like walking around with Kevin, we are filled floor to ceiling with hubs and tools and machines. And yeah, that what we used as our open house room in, I think it was 2019, maybe it was 2020, I don't remember. Anyway, that whole space is now the jewelry studio where Kevin has his bench. So that is out of commission. If you come, you'll visit. There's hardly even enough room to walk around. So we've moved it online, the open house, it's good. I feel like it lets more people come see the shop, be involved than, just the people who come for the open house or for the gem show. But still being able to go on the tours if you are in town is always a good option. Yeah, Diane, they're probably somewhere back on our YouTube channel, but I think we've saved them. We'll have to check. But yeah, we'll do an open house. I believe it is, I don't have the dates on me. It's the Thursday when AGTA is going on, I believe. We have an announcement graphic in the featured posts in our Facebook group, Potter People. And we'll be sending out more information as the date approaches. But the virtual open house will be a series of live videos and, sales and deals on one day so that we can keep it manageable. We'll give like free goodies, lots of stuff. So it's a great way to be a part of it without being in Tucson. We are getting close to having it pierced out. So I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. I'm gonna refine some of the shapes a little. Yeah. If you complete a piece of pierced jewelry in a shop, the same again. Yeah, when done by hand, there's a ton of work. Antique jewelry that, maybe it's like the really fine filigree designs, the old style. Those were pierced by machines, and it was just a series of stamping dies, so similar sort of to a disc cutter, but on a much finer and precise scale. But these were companies that were knocking out thousands of these designs at a time. We have a bunch of the piercing tools, but we don't use them, and we have no way to make them for people. They just sometimes come in with the collections. It's not a viable process anymore. All of these die striking companies, there's a few of them left, but 3D printing and casting has eliminated die striking as a means of mass producing jewelry currently. Because let's say you have a ring and it has a lot of filigree, So all those things needed to be pierced out. With a die set, you'd need a die to like trim the basic shape of the metal. You would need one to form it, probably 3 or 4 different sets of forming tools. You would then need multiple dies for piercing the different components. And that's for one size of one ring design. So it's not, all these machines would be up. So let's say if this specific pendant was in production, like traditionally being die struck, it would probably have 3 or 4 different machines set up just to run that one style. So antique pieces were likely pierced by machine, but anything today that you see artists make, most likely, if they were not cast and they were not 3D printed, then yeah, sewn by hand. Okay, I think this is our last section. There are some other areas on here that I would maybe like to pierce out, like inside this little ribbon over here on the right. But I'm not going to. My hands are a little sore because I have not taken breaks. Again, I'm going to try and follow my own advice and not get too excited to be coming to the end of sawing, because that's when mistakes happen. So we'll see if I have to bite my tongue. I have to eat my words. You can see I saved a large section for last because it's less finicky to me than the small sections. Okay. Do a little bit refining, but let's see. Yeah, definitely join us in our Facebook group. We are working on getting more of a presence in other social media accounts, like on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, just to reach more people. But our Potter People Facebook group that's where currently most things are being announced. We also have a text service or a text messaging service where if we have, kind of a flash sale or a big announcement of like a spotlight, you can sign up to receive text messages. I would say at most 1 a week. We're not going to bombard you with every single thing that we do, but that's one way to kind of stay in touch, even if you're not on Facebook or social media. But here's the pierced out design. I'm going to quickly cut out the design, or cut out the entire pendant, and we'll take a look. And I think maybe I'll run over to the other side of my shop and put a patina on it really quick. But I think we're pretty much there. So if you do get this die, if you purchase it, let me know, and definitely be sure to share pictures of what you make. Okay, let's see. Zoom out a little bit so that you can see more of what I'm doing. And I'm just going to cut out the pendant now that we've cut out all the interior shapes. Can you see? Okay. You can kind of see. And so if you didn't want to pierce the design, this is the only cutting you would have to do. And it's pretty straightforward. Again, just paying attention. I find it's a little maybe hard for me to describe, but when I'm sawing, I'm not looking directly where my saw is making contact with my metal. I'm looking maybe a millimeter or so, in front of where I'm sawing, and that can help guide my saw blade in that direction, just sort of looking ahead a little. And the more you do anything, the faster you'll go at it, the better you'll become. And also, if you're not talking while you're doing it. Can you still see a little? I'm going to add a little bit more lubricant. I'm going to just pause for a second because I feel myself pushing the saw blade forward, and I'll probably break it on the last 1/4 inch if I don't slow down a little bit. It's not a race. Go as slow as you need to. This is usually where the saw blade breaks, when you're in the home stretch, the last 1/4 inch. And sorry, my glasses hit the phone. Da 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 da! Yay! Now it is pierced out. Look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to fully finish it, but I'm going to sand the edges of the pendant and get those smooth a little bit. I'm going to sand the back just a little bit, and then I'm going to go put on a patina so that we can see exactly what it will look like when it has a patina on it, and it is beautiful. I'll zoom out a little bit, but I'm using Moore's Snap-on sanding discs. They're just what I like to use. You don't even have to use the flex shaft. You could use just sandpaper or sanding sticks. But I'm just quickly gonna use this to smooth some of those sawn edges. Give it a nice little touch up before we put a patina on it and call it done. I don't know if you can really see, but I am always maintaining contact with my bench pin. You can't see, but off camera, my flex shaft just knocked all of my saw blades onto the floor. So that will be a post-video project. Anyway, I always make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm fully in contact with my bench pin. It gives you stability, which then gives you control over whatever you're doing. So your bench pin, whether it's one that clamps onto your work surface or mounts into your work surface, it's the center of your workspace. And just cleaning up some of these edges. I know you can't really see. I will, once this is finished, once I have the pendant finished, I will also post a photo of it in the product listing. So if you go to the description of this video, you'll find a link to this impression die, and I'll post a photo in there, as well as on other social medias. Do it in the Facebook group, probably on Instagram. If you don't follow us on any of those other places, you should, because that's where you'll find out about sales and spotlights and all sorts of stuff. Okay, get this cleaned up just a tiny bit more. Section, work around the loop. I don't know, however you want to attach this. So you could use a bail, you could use a jump ring. You'll probably need to enlarge that hole, but it will depend fully on how you plan to finish it. Okay, so I got the sides kind of cleared up. I'm gonna tidy up the back just a smidge because we got lots of burrs from sawing. Try and get the light a little better, maybe. We'll see if that helps. So I'm just holding my abrasive paper and I'm just knocking down the high points of the outside, just removing some of those burrs. If I was finishing this completely, I would, go through different grits and abrasives and stuff like that. But I am not. I just want to knock down some of those burrs. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. I'm just going to sand the whole back. And that'll knock down some of those burrs. You could get in here with needle files, tiny, bits of sandpaper, sanding sticks. But for today, I'm just trying to knock some of those burrs down. Okay. So that is pretty good. You don't have to have a TikTok. I would not have one if it wasn't for work. Do not fret. That's why we're spreading out across the social media channels. Okay. So I am going to, my patina is across the room. So I'm going to go over there and apply that really quick. I'm just going to use Black Max. So give me like a minute and I will be right back and I will show you the finished piece. So this is the die that we're using, BT 1000. It is on, are there burrs on the front? Not really. You could, I mean, if I were to fully finish this, let me see if I can get it you to zoom. I would go in there with tiny needle files. I mean, there's nothing that you can feel. Probably, if you look super close, you could go in with, like I have these escapement files. You could go in and, smooth out that top edge. As much refining as you would want to do. But there's not really burrs. There's always more refining that can be done, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna go put a patina on, and I will be right back. This is the impression die, so go get it if you haven't already. Give me a couple minutes. Okay, heading back. Let's see. It's beautiful, y'all. It's really pretty, and I hope it shows on video. I'm not sure that it will. Look how pretty that is. You can see all the detail in those leaves. This is the back. I don't know how close I can zoom you in. Totally worth it. Worth the time to pierce it out. Plus you build your skills. So I will take some pictures and I will post it on the product page and then on other socials and stuff. But this is just, one example of how you can elevate a stamping. And Yeah, this is how it was originally seen. This is how it was originally created to have these pierced openings. There are certain areas where I would also pierce out. So I would pierce, probably this section here. I would go in and remove these smaller sections between these leaves here and here, probably there, maybe here, over here, possibly here. But I do like leaving some sections solid, especially with the patina, because then you can see, you get that really deep contrast between the dark and the light. For patina, I just used black max, and I used powdered pumice with like my finger and some water to just rub across the surface to remove that patina. So that is how you pierce BT 1000. Thank you for hanging out. This is my first try at like a long form YouTube live, and I appreciate it. I hope you could see everything. The camera motion didn't make you too dizzy. So thank you so much. Have fun. If you get this, let me know. Let me know and share it in all of our socials. Tag us, Potter USA or Potter People, and have fun. Have fun practicing. So thank you so much. Is today Tuesday? Have a good Tuesday. And I will see you later.